Hello, I'm Charity. I do faith-based content and a little more. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So today I want us to I was doing my Bible study, and I came across something that properly worked the fear of the Lord in my heart. It really shook me. So in the book of Luke, we see Jesus going the triumphant entry. I think most of us know about it, where Jesus went down from Mount Olive to Jerusalem, and there was so much celebration. I can see Peter dancing. I can see John shouting. I can see, as in, it was a big celebration when they were going down from Mount Olives to Jerusalem. For that was the triumphant entry. So after, when they are coming down, you can imagine a whole crowd of people dancing, Jesus on the donkey, people putting down their garments, people dancing with the palm leaves. It was beautiful, it was amazing. And then they get to near Jerusalem, and all of a sudden it changes. And let me read the Bible from the book of Luke 19 from verses 41. This is where it flips. This is where it changes from a point of celebration and everything. From verses 41, it says, as he drew near and saw the city, he wept over it. So there is from a celebration, and then he wept. Would that even today you know the things that make for peace, but now they are hid from your face. They are hid from your eyes. For the days shall come upon you when your enemies will cast up a bank about you and surround you and hem you in on every side and dash you to the ground, you and your children within you. They will not leave one stone upon another in you, because you do not know the time of your visitation. So Jesus, these are the words of Jesus. So they are coming down from the triumphant entry, and they are celebrating. They get near Jerusalem, and all of a sudden the mood changes, and Jesus starts saying all these things that will happen to Jerusalem. And before the triumphant entry, and even in the book of Luke, Jesus predicted his death 3 times, and it came to be. And when he gets after the triumphant entry, he predicts another thing that is going to happen to Jerusalem. Since his prediction of his death had happened, would you like to know whether these things actually happened? These things that he says here about Jerusalem happened? Yes, they happened. In the 70 AD, 70 years after Christ, after the death of Christ, these things happened. And you see how even the Bible, how Jesus says, for the days, in verse 43, for the days shall come upon you when your enemies shall cast up a bank about you and surround you and hem you in on every side. You see how Jesus predicted this thing is going to happen. It happened just exactly like that. That in the time that Jerusalem was seized, their enemies came around them, and these enemies were not simple. They were very tactical. They waited for a time of Passover, and like we know, during the time of Passover, the Israelites, the Jews, gathered together. They gathered together to celebrate the Passover. So this happened. The actual happening of Jesus's prediction happened around Passover, when a lot of families had come together in Jerusalem. So their enemies surrounded Jerusalem, and made sure that they cut off all the supplies that were coming into Jerusalem. So with the population of Jerusalem having gone up and them not being prepared for anything like this, they went through all their food stocks very fast, and a lot of people died from hunger. And after death from hunger, in verse 44, and dash you to the ground and your children within you, and they will not leave one stone up upon another in you. After some people had died of hunger, these enemies went into the city, having barely any resistance. They killed the remaining people in the city. This prediction of Jesus actually came to happen. But what really worked the fear of God in me, you know what, this verse, the last verse, all this did not happen because Jesus did not come at them and tell them, you are immoral, this is going to happen, you are wicked, this is going to happen. No, the only reason that these consequences came upon them, this much pain and affliction came upon them, it's because the last verse 44 verse, the last part says, because you did not know the time of your visitation. Because Jerusalem did not recognize that we are having the Messiah right now, we are having a king with us right now, because they did not recognize that they did not recognize the moment that the Lord had visited them. The only reason that they are facing these consequences, is the only reason that this much affliction fell upon them, is because they did not recognize that moment of the triumph entry, because they did not recognize that moment of their visitation. And then it got me thinking. I have been reading through the book of Luke, so I'm just going to check the text from the book of Luke. This is not the first time we are seeing the word visitation. This is not the first time there is a visitation in this book of Luke. Well, this visitation did not end up well, but this is not the visitation. This is not the only visitation in the book of Luke. There's so many visitations in the previous chapters before chapter 19. And the thing about the other visitations, they were good. There was a blessing after the visitation. Starting from the beginning, among the first visitation you can see is the visitation of the angel to Zachariah. When the angel visited Zachariah and told Zachariah they were going to have a child, Zachariah didn't, because of his old age and his wife's old age, he did not believe. The consequences of him not recognizing this moment of visitation and the glory and the power of this moment of visitation was, he was made dumb. He could not speak until the last moment when his son was born, and he had named his son. So the other visitation was Mary. When Mary was visited, and she welcomed this visitation from the angel so nice, and her response, let me tell you the actual verses. Luke 1:38. Let's read it to get the actual words that Mary said. And Mary said, behold, I am the handmaid of the Lord. Let him be to me according to your word. And the angel departed from her. Luke 1:38. You see, unlike Zachariah, who had some doubts, Mary welcomed this visitation, and she recognized this visitation, and she said, Lord, I am your servant. The outcome of that is the Lord used her in the coming of Jesus, and favor followed her. Contrary to the visitation of Zachariah, the visitation of Mary, due to the recognition of the power and recognition that this was the Lord, it was different. Where Zachariah was down for about 9 months, for Mary it was blissful. It was the Spirit of the Lord came upon her. And we see from there, after there was the visitation, when Elizabeth visited Mary, that time both of them were with children. And the visitation, it was beautiful, it was powerful. There is the song of Elizabeth, where the Spirit of the Lord came upon her, and there was praises, and there was, as in, it was beautiful. Then there are so many visitations after this, the first chapter of Luke, the visitation of when Jesus started his ministry. And then there was a point that he visited the house of Peter, and when he visited the house of Peter, his mother-in-law was sick, and he healed his mother-in-law. The visitation of Jesus to King Lazarus, where he raises Lazarus. The visit, as in, the book of Luke is almost a testimony of great visitations and successful visitations. But at the last, Luke chapter 19 is the last visit, is the last among the last chapters of Luke, because the last book of Luke is 24. So 19 is among the late books. They are the end books. So after a whole list of visitations where Jesus visited people and the presence of the Lord was among them, and the visitation of Mary, the visitation of Zachariah, the visitation of Elizabeth, these are great, beautiful testimonies and stories of visitations which ended up good and ended up bringing blessings and ended up changing stories to the better. And then we get to Luke 19, where Jesus speaks to Jerusalem about them not recognizing his visitation and the consequences that befell them. It properly works the fear of the Lord in you, in us, in me. And it gets me to thinking, why was it that Jerusalem did not recognize this moment that they were visited? I mean, these people had seen the amount of miracles Jesus had done. I mean, these people some of them were witnesses, were recipients of these miracles. Why then? And in my understanding and in my interpretation is, when you're not in constant relationship with God, when you're not due to lack of better words, when you are not woke to God, you're not receptive, your spirit is not receptive of what Jesus or the Lord is doing to your life. Like Jerusalem, his visitation will pass you by. And if his visitation brings blessings and peace and joy, and when his visitation, and when you recognize his visitation, you see the results, the good results. Don't let the visitation of the Lord pass you by in ignorance. What more words can I even say than to tell you, pray, be in consistent relationship with the Spirit, be woke to the Spirit, be woke to the Lord. Don't let his visitation pass you by. The consequences of having the visitation of the Lord pass you by are way too much for us to take risks. Be woke to the Spirit, be woke to the presence of the Lord, be woke to the Lord. Don't let his visitation pass you by. Don't let there be wailing and tears and weeping because his visitation passed you by without you recognizing it, without you knowing it. So that is the word of the day. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. It will go a big way. Subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe if this message, if you feel this message makes a difference. Please share, like, subscribe, tell your friends, tell your family. Thank you. Bye.